Welcome, everyone, to episode 41 of the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast. I'm DJ, I'm based in London, and I'm joined by my co-podcasters Varun in Singapore and Ashwin in Cincinnati. Last week, we talked about India's historic win in the Test series and how we have made history in Australia, first win in 71 years. Given the crazy cricket calendar that India runs to, we've already moved on to the one-day series, and this week we're going to be focusing on the ongoing one-day series between India and Australia down under. For those of you who are joining us for the very first time, Edges and Sledges is a cricket podcast. We focus on Indian cricket. It's a podcast purely run by the fans. We're not experts. We're not interviewing famous people. It's just three friends getting together every week and talking about cricket. So we hope you guys like it. Varun, Ashwin, where we left off last week was the Coffee with Karan episode had just been aired. We'd kind of just spoken about it right at the end of the episode. You guys gave your thoughts on the comments, and I think Varun, you said he was being too cool for school. Hardik Pandya specifically. Since then, things have kind of just exploded with the two players being suspended pending inquiry by the BCCI. The committee has sent some show cause notices to the two of them. They both apologize unreservedly, but now they've been sent back to India, suspended, and cannot play any cricket. Ashwin, let me come to you first on this. What is your reaction to this whole fiasco that's been going on since the episode aired? I know initially you thought that it wasn't a great look for Indian cricket, but is the ban and the suspension commensurate with the action?
Yeah, it's a big question. There's a lot to unpack there. I will say I continue to believe the episode did not look good for Indian cricket. It is not the right thing for players of that stature to be going on talk shows and saying those sorts of things. They, whether or not there's all sorts of arguments about being role models and this and that. But the truth is, sports people, actors, and a few other key celebrity groups are seen as role models. So I think it is really important that they manage a message track, especially in a country like India, where, there's continuously issues happening against women and things like that. And there's a movement coming out. I think it's really, really important that not have happened and that there is some sort of a response or a reaction to it. I'm not sure you guys or everybody else agrees with me but I do think that. My problem is, I think it's been handled incredibly poorly. Okay. I think the punishment so far does not fit the crime at all. I think there is no punishment yet, and that's part of my problem. We're recording this on the morning of Jan 15th. They're still talking about delaying the investigation and delaying the inquest and things like that. And that's where my struggle is, hey, these guys were immature. They did something unacceptable. Give them the slap on the wrist, teach them the lesson, make them go to some sort of ethics classes or things like that about how to behave, or at least how to behave in the media and things like that. And then give them whatever the right sentence is or the suspension is, whether it's a game or two games or something, and move on. The problem I have is this has become about now the COA versus the BCCI versus the players versus Shastri and Kohli, and nobody can really jump out and defend them publicly because nobody wants to be seen as associating with their message. But it's also a huge issue for me that they just have not dished out a sentence, let them serve whatever the time is, a couple match ban or something, and then move on. So that's my issue with the whole situation.
So Varun, just to come to you very quickly, they've missed the ODIs and they will miss the rest of the ODIs in Australia, the last one that will be played on Friday. And they are going to miss part of the New Zealand tour, I think, as well. Is this basically turning out to be a power struggle between the BCCI and the COA, as Ashwin pointed out? You've got Diana Dalji on one side, you've got Vinod Rai, you've got Rahul Johri, who's the CEO of the BCCI itself, who was under investigation last year for sexual harassment allegations. Is this turning out to be a struggle between them, and are the players being caught in the middle? Because one of the things that has been pointed out is that they're not being allowed to play the Ranji Trophy games. Karnataka is one of the teams in the quarterfinal, and KL Rahul, who's been so badly out of form in the international game, would have benefited from going back and playing domestic cricket back home, playing the quarterfinals against Rajasthan, a very strong team. Mayank Agarwal is doing that, and it would have been great for those two to open for Karnataka. So is the fact that they're not only missing international cricket, but they're not being allowed to play domestic cricket, is that the right decision?
Yeah, so I'm very confused by this, right? I think I totally agree with Ashwin's points. I think, I also just want to call out that there was an old video of Kohli that was released saying that he went on a date with a girl and he left in 5 minutes because she was really ugly. I mean, yeah, these things are not, you're not talking to your friend in your living room, right? You're a celebrity, and I think some action needs to be taken. However, DJ, what you said is correct. This whole thing has just unraveled into something that is completely ridiculous, because the way I see it, they've not cheated. There's no sandpaper gate incident. There's no Me Too incident. No women have come out and complained against them. So I think that this has kind of been taken a little bit out of proportion. They do need to be punished. A ban needs to be necessary. But yes, this is turning out to be a power struggle. And one can only hope that Vinod Rai, I think he hadn't even watched the episode. He made some comments. He then read it in print, made further comments. And the minute it got down to, yes, let's do a real investigation, now suddenly he wants to rush things. So I kind of see both points. I think where the issue comes is really that, for me, I think KL Rahul's comments were a little bit insignificant, and KL Rahul's form is also a bit insignificant for me. So I'm not too interested in discussing him. But I think what the problem is, Pandya was just so bad on the show, and Pandya is so crucial to India's World Cup plans in the ODI space that I think everyone's at a little bit of a loss of words on what to say. I think the only thing one can say is we hope this wraps up soon. They get whatever suspension or ban is needed, and they come back, because rightly so, you can't end a player's career because of this.
Thanks, Varun. I think part of the problem from my perspective is that there isn't actually anything happening, and the suspension and all of that is well and good, but there isn't with the current state of the BCCI and the Committee of Administrators and all of that stuff, the procedures aren't actually laid out properly. Now, under the BCCI constitution, and there's a very good article about this on ESPN and Cricinfo, the people who can sanction a player for indiscipline or misconduct is the BCCI's apex council. Now, with the mess that the BCCI is currently in, there is no apex council at the moment, and there's no ombudsman. So basically, the CEO, Rahul Johri, who was under investigation himself earlier, forwards a report by the apex council to an ombudsman who determines what the sanctions will be. Now, there isn't an ombudsman, there's no apex council, the states are trying to get involved, and these two players, I mean, they're fairly young players, right? And their careers are currently at a bit of a standstill. And given the lead into the World Cup, and we'll come to this later in the conversation, and the issues with the middle to lower order, I think this is a real shame that this is taken a little bit of the sheen of India's historic test victory in Australia, and is not allowing India to test out the best combination given the circumstances and only 5 months left to go to the World Cup. But that is just my 2 bits on that scenario. Something good, though, has come out of this, and I just want to talk to you two guys about that. And Varun, let me come to you first on this one. Shubman Gill, a 19-year-old World Cup winner, part of the team that Prithvi Shaw led last year, has been scoring prolifically at the first-class level. He's played 9 matches, he scored 300s, he averages, I think it's 78 with a strike rate of around 77 or 78. He's been drafted into the one-day team. Thoughts on Shubman Gill, Varun?
Yeah, I'm very happy. You know my view when it comes to young talent. I'm extremely happy about this. I think he deserves the opportunity. I hope he gets a chance to play. I think the only point I want to make is, if India didn't have this World Cup looming on their head coming up in 4 months, these guys would have been drafted into the playing 11 much, much faster. And we'll discuss the entire lineup. I think there are some positives that have come out of losing the first ODI as well. But yeah, very happy for Shubman Gill. Would love to see more people like this coming in. And I think the examples are players like Hanuma Vihari and Mayank Agarwal just came onto the international scene and seemed like they belong there. So I just want to also call out that, yeah, a lot of these guys are being trained by Rahul Dravid. There are lots of conversations that happen between the selectors, Ravi Shastri and Rahul Dravid, to say, you know, certain guys are ready, certain are not. So I'm just very, very happy with the pipeline and happy for Gill.
Thanks, Varun. Ashwin, just on Shubman Gill, do you think he's going to get a game in this series, or is he just there to kind of learn from the seniors, enjoy the India senior dressing room atmosphere, train with people like Kohli, train with people like Rohit Sharma, and see what it is to be in the big league? Or do you think he's genuinely going to get a game?
So actually, I don't think he's joined us for the tour in Australia. I think he's joining, or has joined already, but is only in the squad for New Zealand, for the 2 ODIs we're playing against New Zealand. As much as I would love to see him get a game, I think with the World Cup looming, like Varun mentioned, I do not think he will. I think they have him there to learn from experience, train with the seniors, etc. I mean, I separately have a bit of a fundamental issue with just how large the squads are becoming. I mean, we're sometimes taking 19, 20, 21 guys to these tours, and to your point earlier about Rahul, several of these players could benefit from getting time in the middle in the domestic games. So I think that's a discussion for another day, but I do not think Shubman Gill will get a game, but I'm really glad to see him in the mix, because it means basically as soon as the World Cup ends, they'll be drafting him in right away.
Awesome, and thanks for correcting us on Shubman Gill not being in the squad for the ODIs. Also, interestingly, I think I mentioned earlier in the piece that Mayank Agarwal and KL Rahul would have opened for Karnataka, but it seems that Mayank was actually due to fly out to Australia as the replacement for Rahul, or stay in Australia as a replacement for Rahul, but he's bruised his finger, and therefore he won't even be available for the Karnataka game. So Karnataka will probably have two different openers. Just a quick thought on Vijay Shankar. With Hardik Pandya's participation under a cloud, is it worth giving Vijay Shankar a run in the last ODI?
For me, the answer would be no, because I feel like India's adopting a little bit of a different strategy. And since we're getting into it, I just want to talk about it right now. I think what India is doing is, I think they're realizing that the difference between playing a sixth part-time bowler versus relying on your top 5 bowlers is probably a question of 15 runs or so. Okay. And I don't have stats to back this up. This is a little bit of gut feel. So if that difference is coming out to be maybe 15 runs to back up 3 to 4 overs of a bowler who has an off day, I think what the team is realizing is that some of the most successful teams today, be it Australia, where Maxwell is coming at number 7, or England, where you've got your Stokes, etc., who come really late down the order, they are the ones who are really changing the game. So from my perspective, the way I see current first 2 ODIs is that India's is probably going to play 5 full bowlers. And that's where the Vijay Shankar piece comes in, where I don't believe that he is at a level where he can bowl 10 overs for India. And I think his batting, he's a little bit low on confidence after Nidhas, but I think we should give him a chance, give him time. But in the immediate set of plans, it doesn't seem to fit.
Ashwin, your thoughts on Hardik Pandya 2.0, as you called him?
Yeah, I'm going to live to regret that one. Look, I actually do fundamentally agree with what Varun's saying from a strategy standpoint. However, I think I would slot him in for the 2 New Zealand ODIs. And the reason for this is not so much about him necessarily, but it's on the assumption that Pandya is not back by then, which I think is fair to say. I think you want to give Chahal more time in the middle, because to me, your World Cup 5 bowlers are Kuldeep, Chahal, Bhuvi, Bumrah, and Hardik Pandya. And obviously Bumrah is being rested. I don't think anybody needs to give him any more time in the middle. He's got tons of gameplay, but I'm nervous about Yuzvendra Chahal, who is actually an incredibly attacking, wicket-taking bowler. And I would just hate for him, like, he's really been the collateral damage from this whole Coffee with Karan incident with Hardik Pandya. So for me, I would play a Shankar at 7, not because I think Shankar is part of a longer-term plan, but because it then allows you to have 2 spinners and 2 seamers. And so unfortunately, Jadeja, for me, as much as I love him as a test player, I think he misses out as well, because I do not see him slotting into the 11 for the World Cup.
So guys, just moving on. The series is tied 1-1 at the moment, the India-Australia ODI series. I think I predicted last week that it's going to be a 3-0 sweep. So the first game was a bit of a surprise for me, to be honest. I don't know whether you guys thought that Australia were going to win the first game, but I know both of you predicted 2-1. But let's just talk that through a little bit. The top 3 in the first game, we were chasing a 280 odd. The top 3 were back in the pavilion. Well, not the top 3, because Rohit went on to score a magnificent 100. But we lost 3 wickets for 4 runs, including Kohli, Raidu, and Shikhar Dhawan. So, guys, did that game actually show you the strength of the middle order? So, I just want to talk through Dhoni's role, a little bit about Karthik's role, a little bit about the options that we've got in the middle order and the lower middle order. So, first, I think I'll come to you first, Varun. Where should Dhoni be batting? A. And B, should he be playing the World Cup for India? I know it's a massive question, and the events of today may have helped Dhoni's case a little bit. But in the long run, or in the short run, I suppose, 6 months hence, is playing Dhoni and batting him at 5 the right decision?
Yeah. So this for me is the eternal debate, right? Where should Dhoni bat and should he even bat? For me, I think firstly in the first ODI, I'm quite happy that India was 4 for 3 because it just shows that a team has still got a bit of time to kind of figure out where their weaknesses are, and they need to work on that. And I can see that approach is being taken. I think for me, honestly, Rohit Sharma had come out earlier and said he wants to see Dhoni bat at 4. The more and more I kind of watch Dhoni, I think that anchor role is to be played by him. And I think he does need to bat at 4. I think today's game, yes, he took it down to the last over. He hit a 6 on the first ball of the last over. So all of that's well and good, but it's not going to happen every time. And we've all kind of seen Dhoni struggle with the tail before 3-4 years ago. So I think the case is really that can you bat him at 4? Is he fit enough? Because I was having an argument with some friends that I when I saw the match today, I kind of thought that I didn't realize Dhoni is not able to keep up with this much running. So yes, it's 50 overs in the field. It was 40 degrees. He's batted about 20 overs, but can he be fit enough to bat at 4? That's the question. For me, what happens with Dhoni at 4 is then you've got a little bit of room to have some power hitting in the later stages of the game. And honestly, I think Dhoni has showed us, we have to give credit where it's due, that he's not getting out cheaply. So he's matured a lot, and I think he is able to kind of bat through the innings, although it's at not a fast enough strike rate. What I do want to also call out is I noticed one other thing, that Dinesh Karthik performs much better in a slightly pressure situation. I personally think it's because he's got kind of only one thing to do, clarity of thought. And so Dinesh Karthik should definitely be batting slightly lower down the order.
Thanks, Varun. Ashwin, thoughts on Rishabh Pant's chances at the World Cup? Is he one of the contenders for the number 5 slot, perhaps, if Raidu doesn't work out and Dhoni's moved up?
Yeah, look, I think it's a tough one. I do not personally think he is one of the contenders, again, as much as I think he should be. And that's because I think, if you remember, I think October, November timing, Virat came out and backed Rayudu publicly, right? And so, yeah, okay, he got out on duck in Sydney and he made 20 something odd in Adelaide in the second match, but he did make a century the last time he batted before this out against the West Indies. He made a 70 something in that series as well. So I think they're going to continue to back Rayudu. I don't know if it changes anything that he's no longer, for the short term at least, able to contribute a few overs with the ball, because his action has been reported as suspect. So for now, he's not going to be bowling. I don't think that was a big reason they picked him, but I do continue to think they will back Rayudu either at that number 4 or number 5 slot. And I mean, I'd come mid-July, you're going to see Pant get slotted in, you're going to see Gill get slotted in. I think one of the stats I shared with you in the first ODI was the first time in India's history, as far as I saw it, that we played a top 7, all of who were above the age of 30, right? Because you have Dhoni, Karthik and Jadeja at 5, 6, 7. So first time in India's history, all of our top 7 were above the age of 30. So I think that's their approach. They're going to stick to experience for the World Cup, and then you're going to see Pant and Gill slotted in after.
I think one thing that Pant actually adds is being left-handed. And apart from Shikhar, and to an extent Jadeja when he plays, I mean, we really don't have any left-handers in the batting order. So I think that would really add quite a lot to the Indian batting lineup. So guys, I think also I agree with Karthik batting 6 or 7, Ashwin?
I do. I think he plays a really unique role. I think if the strategy is to stick to 5 core bowlers and, like Varun mentioned, just live with the fact that not having that 6th option is going to be 15, 20 runs extra, I think then Karthik is the right finisher. I think he may only miss out if they choose to pivot back to a Kedar Jadhav type of strategy where you have a few extra overs of spin as an option.
So who would our bowlers be in that scenario, Varun? We'd play 4 full-time bowlers, obviously. And where would the rest of the 10 overs come from? Are we going back to the old Ganguly strategy with 4 full-timers and Yuvraj and Sachin and Sehwag pulling in the remaining 10?
We don't have the luxury of Yuvraj, Sachin and Sehwag pulling in 10. There's nobody who bowls, and people who bowl have suspect actions. So there's just no options. I think if you ask me, I have 2 predictions to make on this show, and let's remember that it's episode 41. The first is that I think Pant will come in midway through the World Cup into the team and cement his place there. And the second is, my gut feel tells me that both Jadeja and Pandya are going to play. So your lineup is going to be Kuldeep Yadav, Bumrah, Bhuvaneshwar Kumar, Hardik Pandya and Ravindra Jadeja. That is going to be your 5 bowlers. You're going to have to consider Dhoni at 4. Pant at 5, Dinesh Karthik at 6. And to me, that today, if you ask me, is my ideal lineup. It might change as we see form, but that's the way I see it.
Interesting. So there you have it, the first big call on the World Cup. Ashwin, any further thoughts on India's middle order?
I mean, I think it's a big call. I don't know. I would feel incredibly bad for Chahal. We sometimes forget that he's got a more attacking, more higher wicket taking percent even than Kuldeep. Just because Kuldeep's that left-handed mystery spinner, he makes it ahead of him. So I also think they bowl really, really well together. But I get it. I mean, I don't envy the selector's job. Jadeja, for example, created a wicket just with a run out to break a partnership in the Adelaide in the second ODI. So I get the value Jadeja brings. I'm a huge advocate of him in the Test game, but I think that's going to be a really interesting play to see both Pandya and Jadeja, and each of them basically being relied on for 10 overs. That's essentially giving you batting up to number 8, if I'm doing that math correctly. So and then Bhuvi at 9. So that's a really, really deep batting order with no bowling options. So it'll be interesting to see. I think a lot depends on how the last ODI goes in Australia, the New Zealand series goes, and maybe how the IPL goes. I mean, who knows? If Pant has another breakthrough IPL season, it may get him on the radar sooner.
Thanks, Ashwin. Awesome. So we will continue with the show after this very quick break. Guys, I know we've talked a lot about the middle order, and I suspect that all the way until the 30th of May, we will focus quite heavily on India's middle order, and it's going to be a recurring theme in this podcast. But guys, let's just talk a little bit about our top 3. I know, again, we tend to ignore them a little bit. We saw what happened when they didn't perform, or at least 2 of them didn't perform. We saw Rohit Sharma score 130 odd in the first ODI. Guys, is this the best top 3 in world cricket? And I mean, how good are all these guys? Let's start with Shikhar Dhawan, okay? Varun, thoughts on Shikhar Dhawan in the ODI game?
Yeah, I think Shikhar in ODIs has really, in the last 2 to 3 years, come of age. I think there is nobody who can replace him right now. And I think he plays a very good support role to both Kohli and Rohit Sharma. And if those two weren't around, Shikhar Dhawan may have been one of the top 2 or 3 openers in world cricket today. So, same thing to be said of Rohit Sharma. If Kohli wasn't around, he'd be the best batsman in the world in ODI cricket. So it's a very fortunate situation to be in, where your top 3 are genuinely so good.
Ashwin, is Virat Kohli the best ODI player of all time?
I'm going to say yes. I think he still has a little bit more to do it. And you're putting me on the spot like Rahul and Pandya asking me Sachin or Virat. But I think Virat Kohli is probably the one of the best multi-format players of all time, and at the moment probably the best ODI player. I would say on track to be the best ODI player of all time if he can continue his trajectory.
I mean, who else would even compete? Who else even comes close to him? He's got 39 hundreds in one-day cricket. Sachin I think he had 49 when he retired. He had 51 in Test and 49 in ODIs. He's got 39 hundreds. He's got, I think the stat I saw this morning was he has 24 hundreds while chasing. The next highest person, I think, with the highest average while chasing is, I think it may be A.B. de Villiers, who's got 7. And I mean, it's just incredible, the number of hundreds. He just reels them off one after the other. He's like a batting machine while chasing. And we saw it again today. I mean, we saw, I think until he got 50, he'd only hit 2 boundaries. And they were the 2, one was a cover drive and one was a straight drive. And we saw how hard he works. Is this the template for one-day batting going forward, kind of 1s and 2s with the odd boundary? And has he just cracked one-day batting, Varun?
I think he has, and we saw this a few years ago as well. Like when he was chasing either 340, I remember a time where he and Gambhir chased it really quickly. Either he's chasing 340 overs to qualify for certain finals of Tri-Series. I think he's figured it out. I just think the game has evolved to a point where you can bat at a medium strike rate till the 35th, 40th over and then really accelerate. So Kohli needs support, but I think Kohli's, he's figured it out.
So I'm going to Ashwin's actually given me the idea, guys. So I'm going to put you both on the spot. Ashwin, go first. Sachin or Virat? One-day cricket.
If you're saying one-day cricket, I'll say Virat.
Varun, Sachin or Virat? One-day cricket.
Yeah, ODI, I would say Virat.
So we're basically now going to get trolled like those 2 guys got trolled.
We've clarified ODI.
DJ, let's ask you. You answer.
I think actually Virat's probably a more complete one-day batsman than Sachin was. I mean, Sachin, the innings that stick in the mind are Desert Storm. 98 at Centurion against Pakistan while chasing. Um, what else sticks in the mind in one day games while chasing? There was that innings against Henry Olonga where he got really annoyed and just smashed him after he'd been made to look a bit silly in the game before that. But I think Kohli is just. I mean, India, if you remember when we used to watch cricket back in the 90s and early 2000s, didn't really win very much while chasing. Rahul Dravid, of course, came along and changed that. We won like 11 games in a row chasing. But I mean, Kohli has just cracked the art of pressure and the chase. And I think Isa Guha mentioned on the telecast today that the reason why Kohli enjoys the chase so much and he kind of goes into autopilot is he got inspired by Desert Storm and he enjoyed how Sachin chased those runs down against the Australians. But I think he's taken it to a whole new level. I'm not saying technically he's better than Sachin or, I mean, Sachin was a beautiful batsman to watch. And I mean, we all grew up worshipping the man. But Kohli is so consistent while chasing. He makes you expect that he's going to win the match for you. And he nearly did it again today, despite being exhausted by the heat and all that stuff. So my view, my long-winded answer is that I think it's Virat in one-day cricket and T20 cricket. Test cricket is a much harder answer, and I think we'll find out more as Kohli matures more as a Test batsman. He's 30 now. He's got a good number of years to come, and Sachin was fairly productive in the latter years of his career. So I think he's going to get there, but I think Kohli is the greatest one-day batsman of all time. Including Sachin.
Can I share a couple of statistics just to elucidate that fact? So there's a Cricinfo image going around where they posted, and I think we can share it on our Twitter feed if you want, but they posted highest batting average in a successful ODI chase, and they've showed that Dhoni has an average of 99.85 and Kohli has an average of 99.04. Kind of sort of sticking it to those of us who said Dhoni probably is past his prime and doesn't belong, etc. I took great issue with this one just fundamentally because it is a completely misleading statistic to look at highest batting average in a successful ODI chase, because you've narrowed down the universe to when you won. As a lower order batsman like Dhoni, chances are you're going to be not out. And so I pulled some of those statistics, and just to give context to that, the highest batting average in a successful run chase, Dhoni has an average of about 99.8 or so. Stuart Broad has a batting average of 106 in successful ODI chases. So I wanted to kind of dispel that. But coming back to the point on Kohli, as you look at the highest batting averages in all chases, okay, so whether you won or lost, I mean, Kohli is miles above anybody else who played more than 20 innings, let's say. Like, Kohli averages 69 in run chases. The only people that come close to him, interestingly, Rayudu averages about 64, Bairstow averages about 59, and then, DJ, you mentioned De Villiers at about 56, Bevan. So some of these iconic names, and Kohli is miles ahead of them, and he's played 120 innings, so it's not even a small sample size. So I just wanted to build on the points you were making.
Awesome. So just moving on, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the IPL. It was confirmed earlier in the week that the IPL will stay in India. It won't be moving to South Africa or Dubai or whatever else the conjecture was, given the elections that are going to take place in India. So, Varun, are you excited about the IPL staying in India?
Yeah, I am. I think I'm just excited about the IPL overall. It doesn't matter where it is. The timings will always suit the Indian audience, and that works for me. So I'm just very excited about the IPL. And yeah, every year on 1st Jan, it's the thing I look forward to the most that's coming up. And this year, it's been brought 2 weeks ahead of schedule. So it kind of threw my plans off, and I'm even more excited.
Ashwin, is the IPL being in India better than the IPL being in South Africa or Dubai for you time-wise? Or
no, it's actually not so bad, the games for me. So I'm in North America Eastern time. So the games are 6:30 a.m. and 10:30. So the double headers on weekends are perfect. Monday to Friday is kind of tough at 10:30 a.m. But I sort of end up blocking my calendar from 10:15 to 10:30 to make those last-minute fantasy league changes. So we're pretty good. We're all set. I've been doing it for about 10 years now, right? So we're all good.
Very good. So I think we're already kind of starting to look forward to the IPL. But the other thing that made news this week was Australia's retro kit. Guys, what did you think of that? It took it back to the 80s. Like, I think it was Alan Border that was last seen wearing those Australian yellows. Ashwin, thoughts on the kit and the jersey overall?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. There were lots of jokes going around about, are they taking the kit back to the old kit so that their performances go back? And of course, they did win the first ODI. I think it's a fun initiative. It's nice to see boards do this. I would love to see at some point Kohli and the team walk out in one of the early 90s India kits, which were very, very different shade of blue, etc. So I think it's a great initiative. And, DJ, for somebody like you who already has, 3 or 4 India jerseys, would just force you to buy another one. So it'd be great.
Yeah, that is probably true. I think my favorite still remains, and the one that I got a replica of is the 1992 World Cup jersey, which for me was just a fantastic jersey. I think it was only a 9-team tournament in the same format as the current World Cup is going to be played, actually. Funnily enough, it's the first time that format's going to be replayed since 1992, where each team plays each other team once. But, Varun, did you have any favorite jerseys when you were growing up?
I can't remember. I just remember Sahara very clearly. But yeah, I think the 92 stands out for me as well.
And Desert Storm as well, with the kind of dark blue pajamas and the light blue top, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That one, of course, is etched in our memory.
But there's some great kind of memes and stuff out there with the evolution of the Indian jersey. Anyway, guys, so that's just about the retro kit. I mean, I would absolutely love to see India walk out one day in the 1992 jersey again, and it would just be fantastic. But just the last section that I wanted to go through this week was the funny stories section. That we put out a tweet earlier in the week asking for funny cricketing stories, and the reason for that actually was after India won the Test series in Australia, in Sydney. I mean, as all cricket fans do, I was just watching every kind of video I could see online about that. And I think it was a Cricket Australia video which said emotional moments at Sydney or something. And right at the end of that video, one of Varun and my classmates showed up there taking a selfie with Jasprit Bumrah. Now, I kind of saw that and it was absolutely random. And I thought this is a funny cricketing story, so I tweeted that. I mean, Varun, what was our classmate doing there? Didn't you think it was extremely random? And the fact that I spotted him was even more random.
I think the fact that you spotted him is even more random, because if we were there, we would have probably been doing the same thing as our friend Shiva. But yeah, man, it was good to see him. I don't think I've seen him or spoken to him in probably 12 years. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, so that was absolutely insane. So we then put out some tweets about whether people had a funny cricketing story, and we got quite a number of responses. So I'm just going to read out a few of them at the moment. So the first one we got back on that was from Achal Verma about an inter-school game. The bowler was in mid-run-up when the umpire's belt buckled, and his pants started to slide down. They called for drinks a few overs earlier than expected on that day. Saurabh Jain tweeted us about how while he was chasing, he hit 2 sixes in a row, and then someone announced on the mic that if he hits a third six, he'll be awarded a 10 rupee prize. So he went for the shot and got caught on the boundary. Eventually, he lost the match. When he started to type this tweet, it was supposed to be funny. Now, that actually shows you what inflation has done to the value of the rupee. I don't think if anyone announced a 10 rupee prize now, Saurabh would be hitting those sixes, but anyway. Cricket Guru writes in saying that when he was a kid, we used to play on empty roads. He was bowling and he saw some pebbles on the pitch. He managed to land his next 3 balls on it and got his first ever hat-trick, all 3 bowled, because the ball kept low and the batsman had no clue. So that's pretty impressive accuracy. Varun, could you have done that?
Yeah, I've never done that, but that is very impressive.
You should have copied the Glenn McGrath action. That would have got you there.
That I've done a lot, but yeah.
No, Ashwin, don't you have some funny stories of Varun batting all day? What were you telling us?
Man, I'm not 100% sure. I was really young, so maybe Varun can fill in. But I specifically remember during the Diwali holidays, we chose to play a test match in a ground that was probably the size of the 30-yard circle, and tennis ball, obviously. And I just remember, for some reason, him batting all day and torturing these kids who I think were a lot younger than him, but in 42, 43 degree Delhi weather. I specifically remember this. Varun, do you want to shed some more details?
I remember it clearly. Such exaggeration. It was all our age group guys. I actually hit 220, and I think I batted for like 2 days. And the ground was not 30-yard circle. It may have been little smaller than it wasn't a full ground, but it It was definitely our age group guys, bigger than 30 yards, and I didn't see anyone else hit 220 runs.
So the problem is I can't validate or invalidate your fact, and we're not in touch with any of those guys. So you could be making up whatever you want. But
you were the one who brought it up. I'm just giving you the stats behind it.
I brought it up because it's ridiculous that you'd make children bowl all day to you in the summer heat of Delhi. On that, look, you know what? I'm sure the park is still there. We can go back in Gurgaon and take a look. We'll see someday, maybe.
Did you retire at 220 or did you get out?
No, I was just tired, man. Like, how much?
I think we called stumps because of bad light.
Yeah, I think we called stumps because mom was calling us home. But yeah,
Awesome. So of course, Varun was the Virat Kohli of the local park. So just moving on, J Cricket Dude writes in, 2 years ago at the Hong Kong T20 Blitz, he tried to ask Ian Bell for a selfie. He had to run up to catch up to him, but he was getting away. So he called out Mr. Bell, then he stopped. It was a poorly taken selfie. He tried to atone for his awkwardness by offering to wave down a cab. He didn't hear me, pretended not to hear me, or thought I was a bookie. So pretended like I didn't say anything and walked home. Jay, that is a pretty good story. It is pretty embarrassing. So, guys, thank you for all those awesome stories. They were really good. Some of them really funny. Some of them a bit tragic. But yeah, this is exactly what we want from you. We love listening to you guys. We love kind of putting tweets out there and getting responses to them. So keep them coming in. That's all we had for this week's episode. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for listening. The third One Day International is up on Friday. It's going to be an exciting end to the series. Hopefully we have a thriller like we had today with India winning by 6 wickets. We've got a few interesting things lined up for the India-New Zealand series. So please do tune in the week after this. So we look forward to you joining that. As always, write into us on Twitter, write into us on email. It's contact@onetip1hand.com. Like our Facebook page, get in touch with us there. We love hearing from you. Give us your feedback and tell people about us. That's literally the only way we really grow. So if there's one thing you do today, take out your phone, go into WhatsApp and send the link for the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast to 3 of your friends. So that would be really, really helpful to us. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. That's it for this week.